Hello, everybody. It's BDF44, continuing my social topic energy that I've been on recently. And the thing that I am coming here to speak to you today about is the latest comments that I heard from Jay-Z that kind of directly uh, reflect certain things in my life that I don't think depict my perspective properly. Basically, Jigga got on some panel of some sort and said that he felt that the police brutality uh, in the black community is directly related to the brokenness of so many households in the black community. Basically, single parent households make it so that children grow up without a father figure, a lot of times, black children, and they end up going out into the world without a respect for authority, and without a respect and a certain level of respect that should be given when you're in certain situations involving the police. So I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but that was the gist of what he was saying. I think that that is one perspective. I think that someone, just like I've said in regards to video games causing people to shoot people, it may have caused one person to feel that way. That is one perspective, and maybe it was his own. Maybe he went out into the world and felt that he didn't have a respect for authority because of the fact that maybe his home, he didn't have a father in his household. But as for me and myself, my mother raised me by herself, and I always had a respect for authority. And to be completely honest, I've been fortunate enough to not have too many bad instances involving police. Not too many. I've had one or two, but it wasn't to the extent to where you would have to protest or kneel for me. That doesn't necessarily mean I don't care, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I can relate at all to what Jay-Z's talking about in that statement. But I will say that I'm sure that what he's saying applies to certain individuals in those circumstances, maybe. But to put that out there for people to receive, especially people who are outside of our community, who are looking for perspective, who are looking for the truth, who are looking for answers as to why we can't seem to get along with the police and walk away with our lives. A lot of times it is expressed in comment sections and things like that, that all we have to do is just comply with the police and we should walk away with no problem. If we follow the laws, we shouldn't have issues. And I know that people who say that truly believe that, but I want to be just very clear in saying that's not always the case. You can do everything that you're supposed to do or nothing wrong at all and still find yourself in a situation where your life can either be taken or threatened or even beat up, pummeled, whatever, however you want to put it, arrested unlawfully in some cases, just for being African American, just for being of color. It has happened. It is documented a lot. So to give one perspective to try to give someone an understanding of what's going on is doing them no justice. It does the community no justice, and it does you no justice when you say things like that, because it shows that you have a one-track mind in terms of trying to assess what it is that's going on in social situations, when there's much more of a fluidity as to why circumstances turn out the way that they do. But the one constant that we've seen is that people of color have found themselves in situations where they've lost their lives because police have said that they felt that their lives were threatened or at risk. And that does not make any sense. And because that doesn't make any sense, we, as our black communities, are looking at the situation and we're trying to figure out how we can find solutions as to making it so that the police can do their jobs while we can feel much more safe and be more safe in the streets while they're doing their job. So that's what it's all about. As to why the relationship between police and the black community isn't strong, it's not limited to one thing. It's not limited to one person's perspective, or because the household is not structured a certain way, so we can just blanket the whole entire situation on that. No, you're excluding the responsibility that the police have and those who are in position of controlling the police have to train the police officers properly, to make sure that they have the right type of minds in position to do the job properly, and people who have an understanding of what the social climate is around them so that they know how to handle the people that they have to police. That is where the meat and potatoes of the situation is. Why black people don't get along with cops, you got to knock on each and every black person's door to figure out why that person may not have a good relationship with the police. You can't figure that out by just saying, well, these dudes come from black households where ain't no daddy there. So, like, that is short-minded, short-sighted, and ultimately, this is misguided thinking. It's completely misguided. So I look at Jay-Z and say, we're getting to a point where I'm starting to understand something. I don't assume to understand what Jay-Z's doing other than the fact that he wants to make money. He wants to be seen in this space in terms of a social justice space in the presence of the NFL. Those are the only two factual situations that I can honestly, tangibly look at. Everything else is blurred and there's a bunch of question marks around it. But one thing I can say is he should not be the voice of what his business dealings are going forward with the NFL. He should not allow them to put a camera in his face and answer questions and or express his views on what he's doing, because quite frankly, he's showing that this is not a strength of his. It's not a strength of his. Either he's not communicating his thoughts properly enough, articulating himself properly enough for people to understand fully the full spectrum of what he's saying, or he's not able to see it properly. Whatever the case may be, he's making himself look worse and worse to not only our community, but probably to other communities as well who are watching this situation with a keen eye. I'm not so much interested in the deal anymore. I'm just kind of looking at the man and I'm saying, Jay, you are doing more damage to yourself and your brand. And most importantly, as I've said in the past, you're showing us exactly how far away from who you were or who we believed you were, you actually are today. And how that affects other aspects of his life is yet to be seen. But in my heart of hearts, just looking at the circumstances, knowing how big Beyonce is as of a brand, I cannot envision that she's looking at this situation favorably at all. I just can't imagine that she is. I don't care how much you love somebody and how much you support them. When they start doing damage to their brand and they have a brand that's big of your own, there is going to be some discourse there. Even if y'all tight spiritually and mentally, y'all tight. The camps, the Beyonce camp is looking at this and saying, yo, this is bad pub. This is not positive pub. And I would just say, if I were a PR person or somebody in that circle, Jay-Z no longer needs to speak for himself in regards to this. He's the money, he's the brains behind the structure of his side of the deal, but as it pertains to being the voice that the people hear in regards to the circumstance, I don't think that's in his best interest no more, and I don't think it's in the best interest of the NFL's dealings with him anymore. Just looking from the outside in. And also, Jigga, you need to pull a Kanye, bro. You need to get back home, bro. When Kanye was wearing all them MAGA hats and running around, the one thing that he didn't have around him was his people. He was listening to people that were outside of his community and outside of his spiritual space to tell him what's, to kind of give him his healing process coming back from his breakdown. I'm not assuming Jay-Z's coming down from any breakdown of any kind, but what I'm saying is he needs to get like Kanye's doing with the church services. Kanye was just in Watts a couple of days ago. He was in Dayton last week. He got back to the people. He understood that he was distant from the people, so he got back to them. He got back to them. That's what Jigga needs right now. He needs to be reminded of what it felt like to live in Marcy Projects before the success. The desperation, the pain, the struggle, the lacking of knowledge. See, that's what ends up also hurting a lot of people. And I think that I'm aware enough to know this. Once you get in certain rooms, in certain circles with different types of powerful people, you start to become privy to certain things that other people will never be privy to. And you have to make decisions that are made on a much grander scale than what individuals' communities can see. You know what I mean? Deals are made, scratch somebody back, gotta do this in order to make that happen, bigger picture stuff, politics. A lot of that is wrapped up in the billionaires game when you get up to the tax bracket that man Jay-Z is in. So I understand that there are things that he's privy to that we are not privy to that are affecting his decision making and affecting his views. What people in those positions have to understand is that what we don't know will affect how we view them. So because we're not privy to what they're privy to, because we don't know the intricate details of all the billionaire games, we're going to look at you at face value for what is being reported to us, and we're going to respond that way. So you got to behave in such a way that is respectful of that in order to gain the favor and keep the favor of the people, if such a thing matters to you anymore. And I think what the billionaires are finding out is that you still need the common folk to kind of agree and go along with you and understand you in order for your situation to ultimately get the support that it needs to work in the social media climate that we're in. You know, a guy like Jay-Z can do a deal like this knowing what it's going to look like 5 years from now, knowing how much better it'll be for him 10 years from now. But he's going to get dragged to high hell today and tomorrow, and his reputation is going to take such a huge hit that it doesn't even really make sense to do such a deal, even with the long-term thinking of it all. Because you can see that you've already set aside a seed of deterioration in your own brand based on the decision that you made for such a big bag. So that's how I'm looking at this. It's like you're going after the big fish, but you let a mouse in the house. Jigga, that's what this feels like. You let a mouse in the house. So now you got to find a way to stop it before it breeds. And if it breeds, you can have a big bag down the road, but you're not going to make it there. You're going to be dragged to hell. And then by the time you get that bag, you're gonna be just in a space where all of this won't seem to have made any sense to have done. That's basically what I see on the horizon. Sometimes being too long-sighted, seeing the bigger picture without seeing the details of what's going on around you, really can destroy your bigger plan. It really can. You can't ignore the little man. You can't ignore the feelings of the people that are ultimately paying for whatever it is you're selling. And though you may not intend to ignore, because your sight is so broad and your scope is so broad, you don't realize how important this is to us that you just communicate with us and understand what we're going through today. Because we don't have 10-year plans, we don't have 15-year plans. We can't see what your plans are, nor do we know what you know. All we know is it looks like he's cooning, and we don't like that shit, and that's that. So I'm privy enough to how things work on a broader scale to just at least understand my own ignorance in regards to that, and to know that if I were privy to what he knew, I probably would think differently. But not everybody's willing to think like that. All they see is what they see, and they're gonna judge you that way, and they're gonna be upset, and they're gonna boycott, and they're gonna cancel, and they're gonna do all those things. So I get that, and also you gotta have a little faith in your community. Have faith. We're on the way to getting our power. We're gaining our wealth. We're getting it. It's a slow process, but it's coming. You don't have to sell out. Like, that's what I want to say to our people. We don't have to sell out. And if you are going to do business with people, keep your strength. Keep your strength. If you're going to do deals with folks that are not like you, keep your dignity, keep your strength. That's your real currency. Taking money gives away your freedom, gives away your people. So don't sell us out in the process of trying to get a bag. You don't have to. And in this world, real time matters. The process definitely matters, but 5 years from now, all of that, you got to get to 5 years from now. Your brand has to get to that point. As I learned, you can't invest money you don't have, and that's not always about currency. For those who understand what I'm saying, it's not always just currency in regards to what you're investing in terms of what you do not have and you're giving away. So just be wise, people. Do your best to try to be mindful of other people's feelings, other people's perspectives, and when you're dealing with folks where you have information that they don't have, respect the fact that they do not have it. That's pretty much all I gotta say, man. Peace. Thank you for watching. BDF.